So the pay for slay is not even done. I wanted to spend the most time, at least with Gaza, with the West Bank, plenty there, Lebanon. You know, the ceasefire ended. What's going to happen? There's a new, so for years before this, I would tell Congress, we spend $140 million a year with the Lebanese armed forces, and they're complicit with Hezbollah. Why are we wasting our money? Give me benchmarks that they're doing what they're going to do. Well, blah, 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 blah. I actually had a fight with the State Department a week and a half ago about this, telling me that the American generals there are saying the Lebanese armed forces is doing a good job. I brought that Israeli military lieutenant colonel in military intelligence with me, who runs ALMA, and they know for sure that there are Hezbollah people in the Lebanese armed forces, of the Lebanese armed forces. The LAF is what we call it. So just for a little, again, to understand, you hear about a lot of these things, but I want you to know. So this is Lebanon. It's a small country, another artificial country. This is southern Lebanon. That is there in the pinkish areas. Those are the places that Hezbollah is. They're here in the Bekaa Valley and in a significant part in Beirut, and they control Beirut International Airport. The Lebanese armed forces a little bit has been stopping the cash flying in from Iran to pay Hezbollah. You know where it's coming in from now? Again, I had another fight with the State Department a week ago. It's flying in from Turkey. And so, you know, you can't keep up with this stuff. Why is Lebanon a real difficulty beyond the obvious? I have lots of stories. It's becoming more Shiite. The Christians have left, many of the professionals left, similar in a much bigger way in Syria during their civil wars. 45%, maybe 50% of the population is now Shiite. They are under the thumb of Hezbollah. The people who are Shiite get their social services from Hezbollah because Lebanon is a failed state. And so Hezbollah has influence on the Lebanese armed forces, and the demographic change is making the things that we want to happen in Lebanon not likely. And you heard about Iran being degraded, and it is, but Hezbollah is still being held by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard forces and rebuilding them as we speak. The northern border, this is the border between Israel and Lebanon, Israel and Syria, and these are the towns, many of which I visited before, that's on patrol with the Golani, and this is in Margaliot, up near Metula, and this is missiles that they improvised blocking coming in, anti-tank missiles called Cornets, and this is, I was there the day after a 53-year-old reservist was killed by a suicide drone, and some of the facilities on the northern border. The communities there, 60 to 80,000 people whose lives have been devastated, have been evacuated. The biggest group was from Kiryat Shmona, up in the peninsula of the Hula Valley. This week, it was last week, I guess now, they opened their schools for the first time since October 7th. How long and how secure will they feel being there? So when I talk about the Lebanese armed forces, this picture says a lot. That's an American-given vehicle with the Lebanese armed forces, with uniforms from America, and they allowed a kid to come on there showing a leader of Hezbollah. And I think that sense in work that we look past what's really going on in Lebanon. So Israel right now has 5 outposts in Lebanon, on the hilltops. And when I see the pictures, even that are looked at the State Department, they don't look at the topography. Why they need these hilltops? Because when these Jewish communities look out towards Lebanon, they used to see Hezbollah flags within meters. Now they see Israeli flags. And this is just giving you an idea of some of the topography. This is a different place than up in the Hula Valley. This is all the way in the west. This is Rosh Hanikra, and there was a lieutenant colonel giving me ideas of how they hide within the topography of Lebanon, which is mountainous and hilly even in the south. So when Israel did its invasion into Lebanon, you kind of thought they went and captured all of southern Lebanon. The green is all the areas they went into. Israel, left alone. Here's all of southern Lebanon, all controlled by Hezbollah. Only in these green areas did Israel go in. So they may have sent missiles or aircraft to make strikes up here, but Hezbollah was untouched basically. There were no ground forces there. And then Israel has some bases along here. Those are the 5 hilltops. So it was not a massive invasion because Hezbollah was trying to bait them in. And so the other group that's there, that acts, literally gets in the way when Israel's fighting with Hezbollah, which really works on Hezbollah's advantage, and the whole southern part of Lebanon, is the UNIFIL. The UNIFIL is a dangerous organization because they do absolutely nothing. They've been there since 2006 after the Second Lebanon War. They've stopped 0 of the 150 or 60,000 missiles that we transported from Iran to Hezbollah. To be there is crazy. We should cut off our tax dollars to them. Oops. Okay. Huh? I cut off the tax dollars. Syria. Lots is happening in Syria, I told you. So you have their new leader, whether he calls himself Al-Shama, or he called himself, what he used to call himself, Al-Jalani. And I have pictures here of his transformation from a jihadist to wearing a Western colored suit. And crazily, the Europeans have now cut most of their sanctions against him with a promise that I'm going to be good. It's insanity without any benchmarks. So I was at the State Department pleading with them to not stop sanctions until there's proof that they're not going to destroy the Kurds to the north, not just in words, and they're not going to attack Israel to the south. Or now, the Alawites, which they were massacring last week, or the Druze, or the Christian communities. So my friend, I said, Jonathan Spire, he wrote a piece. He went to Damascus, and he said, this place feels like anarchy. It's on its way to Islamization. He said, you got to remember that this HTS organization of Al-Shara, when they were in Idlib province for 7 years, it was all about incarceration, torture, misogyny. These were not, Jeffersonian Democrats. And now, I'll give you a picture here. Oops, let me go back here. So now, as of the last few days, Alawites. Now, Alawites, not all of them, but Alawites were a big part of Assad, the genocidal ophthalmologist who killed so many people, and at least 500,000 people. So they are in an area, Latakia province, on the coast, and they attacked, seemingly, the rebel forces, HTS, and in retribution, they killed maybe 1,000 civilians who had nothing to do with it, but they were Alawites. So that's a minority that's now asking Israel for help. This was the group that used to support Assad, or it was his home base. But there are minority communities, again, an artificially constructed country that of Kurds, Druze, Christians. They are not natural allies. They go by tribe and clan and religion. And the Syrian government is making a deal. It's a breakthrough. I put this on about an hour and a half ago, that they said there is a breakthrough deal. The Kurds are up over here, and HTS said they are going to incorporate them into the army, and they made all kinds of promises to them. The Kurds are not stupid. We'll see what happens. Because the Kurds who used to live up here were ethnically cleansed by the Turks about 7, 8 years ago. And so there's many, many layers here. Our State Department hears, oh, they made a deal between HTS and the Kurds, everything will be good. How many deals have been made in that part of the world that, it's not worth the piece of paper they're written on? So Al-Shara sees that Idlib province, that's way up here. So here's the northwest part of Syria, way up here. And that's what he controlled for 7, 8 years. And he says he wants to use this as a template for the rest of Syria. And that is pretty strict Taliban-like government. You had Iranian-controlled, Russian-controlled Assad that was there with Hezbollah involved. Now you're going to have basically Al-Qaeda-like that's replacing it. The choices are bad or worse. I'm not sure what this will be when we look back in 5 years. Just showing some pictures that I've been involved with this. This is me on the Jordanian-Syrian border. The guy behind was the Free Syrian Army General. I don't know if he exists anymore. And I visited some of the Syrian refugees at the largest refugee camp in Jordan on the Syrian border. Israel's perspective of Syria, Israel, and I have to tell you this, remember I said they're not going to do deterrence, they're going to have prevention. They went in and destroyed 80% of Assad's arsenals that were there. They actually struck again today. They said, we don't want those to go into the hands of al-Shara, because we think he's al-Nusra. They also said they're going to protect the Druze population, because Israel has a very large Druze population. Jews are an interesting group. They are loyal to the country that they're in. In Israel, they go to the level of generals in Israel. They're some of the best fighters. But if you're Lebanese, Druze, you are an arch enemy of Israel. And you could be a cousin who lives in the Golan or somewhere near Haifa. Iraq. I just want to go quickly on Iraq. Don't forget about Iraq. Iraq is going to be a big part of what goes on as Iran rebuilds its proxy forces. They have their proxy forces are called popular mobilization units or popular mobilization forces. They are incorporated into the Iraqi army, and they want to control Iraq. They want Iraq to be weak, and that is a big part of their Iranian strategy. And these popular mobilization forces have attacked our soldiers many times, and we, over the past couple of administrations, really have not responded the way we should have. This is Iranian Kurds, just to give you a level of complexity, hiding out in Iraqi Kurdistan. And I was on Iraqi television yesterday. You know, I guess I have a face for Iraqi television. They have me on there a lot. But the Kurds in the north are our allies who are there. But a Kurd is not a Kurd is not a Kurd, whether they're Syrian, Turkish, Iranian, Iraqi. Which brings us to Turkey, which may be the most important country that I'm talking about now. Totally different that our president has to deal with a totally different situation. He had a very close relationship with Erdogan, who was the president there before. And if you read the statement, what it basically is, his idea is he's trying to create a Middle East where Turkey is back as the Ottoman Empire in charge. We should be in charge. And with the visions of what he wants. And in Turkey, unlike here, if I talk to you about something that happened in 2019, it's ancient history, they can talk, Erdogan will talk to his public about something that happened 800 years ago, and the people get it. It's a very different non-Western mentality. But Turkey wants to be in charge. By the way, the Egyptians think they should be in charge of the Middle East. The Saudis think they should be in charge of the Middle East. The Iranians think they should be in charge of the Middle East. And sometimes these guys clash. But sometimes they work together against Israel. Just to, you come right back. So Turkey is a frenemy, a double agent. They are the center of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is the inspiration for ISIS and Hamas and Al-Qaeda. The current Turkish government is anti-Semitic, anti-American, anti-Zionist. They're allies of Hamas. They give sanctuary to Hamas like Qatar does. We'll mention Qatar. Erdogan, over the last 20 plus years, 25 years, has eviscerated all the secular parts that have been in media, judiciary, education. It's a one-horse pony that runs Turkey that's there. And the question is, are they now transferring money to Hezbollah? So what are they doing Iran favors? Again, my enemy's enemy, sometime my friend in this part of the world. Which brings us to Iran. The president wrote a letter to the Supreme Leader. The Supreme Leader said, no, I'll just cut to the chase. But the president says you can't let them have nuclear weapons. What will happen, if they engage in negotiations, how long will the president negotiate with them? The president does feel he can negotiate with anybody. But they are on the verge of nuclear weapons. He has brought back maximum sanctions. He's saying that they may consider stopping oil vessels that are going to India and China. Why? 90% of Iranian money comes from selling illicit oil or other types of fossil fuels, basically to China, our supposedly number one adversary. We need to do something about that. So, secondary sanctions against China and or India for buying Iranian oil and get it cheap should be something there. The president seems to be going in the right direction. So why is there a window of opportunity to attack the Iranian nuclear facilities now? Israel destroyed their anti-missile array after the two largest ballistic missile attacks in modern history occurred, both with the help of the United States and other allies. Israel was able to fend off. Their proxies have been weakened, Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas.